hundreds of nations, billions of people, the earth of 2008 is a seething cauldron of unrest, warfare, and change. As things seem to be slipping out of control, we must remember that the God who created the nations is not asleep at the switch. He's moving the nations into position for the climax of this present age. Today, we begin a series that outlines some of his purposes. Stay with us. From Chicago's Moody Church, this is Running to Win with Dr. Erwin Lutzer, whose clear teaching helps us make it across the finish line. Today, Erwin Lutzer begins a series on God and the nations. First, he'll take us back to the beginning, where we'll learn where we all came from. Listen now as he comes to tell us about the origin of the nations.
When you read about the collapse of the old Soviet Union, when you read about the demise of the Iraqi regime, when you read about the rise and the fall of nations, what comes to your mind? What we want to do in this series of messages is to train ourselves to think biblically about history. Because history is not simply sound and fury signifying nothing. History is going somewhere. In fact, it has been said that history is His story. It's God's story. So what kind of a story is God writing? I hope that as a result of this, first of all, that we not only have a biblical view of history and understand how God judges history, but secondly, that we'll have a deeper appreciation for God, that we'll worship more abundantly and more enthusiastically when we see the providence of God among the nations. But also, I hope that as a result of this, we are given some insight as to how to interpret the events even here in the United States of America. The last message in the series is entitled God and the United States. How shall we understand terrorism? What is the interpretation of it? Why does God use terrorism? What is His intention? And what is His intention for us as believers in the midst of a world that is becoming increasingly uncertain? Washington keeps reminding us of the terrorist alert. And so that's the agenda. Join me for the ride on God and the nations. When God created man, He said that there are two mandates that I want to give you, Adam. He said, first of all, you should know me. God created Adam in His own image. Adam and Eve created in the image of God so that they might know God. And Adam and his wife walked with God in the cool of the day in the Garden of Eden, which is in modern-day Iraq. That's where it was. And then God said something else. He said, I want you not only to know me, but I want you to subdue the earth. I want you to control it, not to misuse it, but to control it, to subdue it. And nations are going to be evaluated and judged on the basis of what they did with the original mandate. Now, what I'd like to do in the next few moments, and I trust that you will follow with me, and I fully expect you to, because I believe that this is going to have insight that will be transforming, is for us to take a few moments to simply look at three different stages in our understanding of the nations. The first two stages are historical, and the third is theological or philosophical. First of all, now, the origin of the nations. And for that, I invite you to turn to Genesis chapter 9. Someone told me this past week that the reason that she does not bring her Bible to church is because by the time she turns to the passage, I have already read it. So could I pause right here and say Genesis chapter 9. All right, chapter 9. I'm waiting for you now. Chapter 9, verse 18. Verse 18. The sons of Noah who came out of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham was the father of Canaan. These were the three sons of Noah, and from them came the people who were scattered upon the face of the earth. Universal wickedness, but only Noah and his family spared in the ark. After the flood subsides, you have Noah, who has 3 sons, and from those 3 sons, all the families of the earth are derived. Well, you know the rest of the story. Noah was a very righteous man, but he is caught in a very unrighteous moment. He begins to work with vineyards, and he becomes drunk, and it says that he lay uncovered inside the tent. Verse 22, Ham, the father of Canaan, saw his father's nakedness and told his 2 brothers outside. But Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it across their shoulders. Then they walked in backward and covered their father's nakedness. Their faces were turned the other way so that they would not see their father's nakedness. When Noah awoke from his wine and found out what his youngest son had done to him, he said, Cursed be Canaan, the lowest of slaves will he be to his brothers. He also said, Blessed be the Lord, the God of Shem. May Canaan be the slave of Shem. May God extend the territory of Japheth. And may Japheth live in the tents of Shem, and may Canaan be his slave. Wow, what a prediction that was actually fulfilled. How do we regard the 3 sons of Noah, and where did they land? Ham, known as the youngest of Noah's sons, and that will become important as we'll see in a moment. Ham, the youngest actually of Noah's sons, became the Canaanites. Ham had 4 sons, by the way. We certainly don't have time to look at this in Genesis chapter 10, but it's all there. He had 4 sons, and they became the Canaanites, the people in Phoenicia, the Egyptians, ancient Egyptians, not modern Egyptians. Modern Egyptians are actually Arabs. And then the whole civilization of Sumer, which also has been identified with the plain of Shinar that we shall talk about. Then you have Shem, and from Shem you have the Jews. You also have the Arabs. Remember Ishmael. Ishmael also is a descendant of Abraham. And then you have Lot, who was a nephew, of course, to Abraham, and he had 2